welcome to today's edition. I am your anchor, Blessing Dolo, broadcasting live from the OLDN TV studios. That is the Organization Leadership and Development Network TV. With me today is Madam Regina Howard, streaming live from Germany. Hello, Madam Regina, and thank you very much for joining us today. Before you come on stage, I would love to read your bio, a very brief one. If you don't mind, I'd like to share your bio so it's visible to the viewers. Okay. Madam Regina Huber, I hope I pronounced that correctly, is the CEO of Transform Your Performance, where she drives inclusive transformation, leadership, and female advancement with experience on 5 continents, including management positions at Bolton Consulting Group. Regina is a multicultural and multilingual transformational leadership coach and consultant, a global inspirational speaker, author of the book Speak Up and Stand Out. Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, a D&I white paper, and her signature framework, Powerful Leadership Transformation. Regina is a conversational intelligence, advanced skills practitioner, and expert contributor at She Sows Women's Media Center, Deputy Director of Education and Head of Leadership Institution at AIRO, that's African Intellectual Resources Organization, and a member of the advisory board of 2 foundations based in Nigeria and Australia, among many other organizations she has been supporting around the world. For more details, kindly visit www.transformyourperformance.com. Thank you, Madam Regina, for joining us today, and we hope to get more insights from you today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Blessing. I'm delighted to be here today. It's a great pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. So actually what I just read was just your bio. Before we kickstart into the questions, because I have a few drafted questions for you. Could you tell us briefly about yourself again, just aside from what I read?
Yes, sure. So I grew up in Germany. I was born in Germany, but I have lived on several other continents. And it started out with a move to Spain when I was 26, Spain, Europe. And then from there, I moved to Brazil. And then I also lived in California and the US, Argentina, several different places. And lately, I've also spent more time on the African continent.
Oh, great. That's amazing. Because of your time, we'll go straight to the first question. I saw this fascinating phrase on your website, humanize the workplace. Kindly throw more light on that.
Yes, thank you so much for asking this question. I'm very passionate about humanizing the workplace, and it's a broad topic, so if you give me a little time, I'd like to expand on it. So I've made humanizing the workplace the title of one of my training topics, which is humanizing the workplace through inclusive leadership. But it's really even much broader than inclusive leadership. Humanizing the workplace is about making the workplace more human and more humane at the same time, not only by increasing human touch points that have been lost through the extensive use of technology in the last few decades, but also humanizing the workplace by looking at the individual. What does that mean? Well, it's about considering the individual employees' unique talents and strengths on the one hand, and their specific needs on the other hand. One of the pillars of my signature framework, Powerful Leadership Transformation, is distinctive uniqueness. Distinctive uniqueness is closely tied into the concepts of inclusive leadership in workplaces. So what is distinctive uniqueness? Well, it is composed of our unique talents and gifts, our natural and acquired strengths, our studies and skills, our qualities, our competencies, experiences, and stories, and the list goes on indefinitely, really. And it's the unique combination of all these factors that makes up our own, that makes up our distinctive uniqueness. You could also call it your authentic brilliance or unique greatness, yes? So as leaders, we must be aware of our distinctive uniqueness first, of our own distinctive uniqueness first, in order to be able to see and value the distinctive uniqueness in others, and especially in those people we lead, our team members.
Mm.
Every single person has a unique set of qualities to contribute. And this set of qualities needs to be first uncovered, second acknowledged, and third utilized in the best interest of the team and the individual. And for that purpose, we sometimes may need to adapt job descriptions to the individual rather than the other way around. And that's also how we can then obtain the best in each human in our team. And then, of course, humanizing the workplace is also about trust building and about practicing inclusive leadership in other ways, such as, for example, addressing biases, which are always an integral part of inclusive leadership. These ways of addressing, biases of other inclusive leadership aspects, right? So it's about leaders building a safe environment where all are encouraged to contribute and where they can actually contribute their best selves and their most creative ideas, which then translate into greater innovation. So it's really a win-win for both the human being, the individual, and the organization.
Wow.
And then to just conclude about this topic, humanizing is also, of course, about focusing on the human in our human resources, rather than just seeing people as resources without the human aspect. Yes. Wow. So the human resource is still the most valuable resource. It's important to keep it that way if we want to do ethical business.
Wow, that's amazing. Actually, you mentioned something on distinctive uniqueness, and that's quite interesting. So, because of the distinctive uniqueness, I picked another point. Based on the powerful leadership transformation, your programs crack the code to create authentic, powerful women leaders. To create powerful women leaders. Please throw more light on that.
Yes, of course. So this is a big topic for me because it's my signature framework, right? It's a powerful leadership.
And it has a distinctive uniqueness in it, that's why.
Yes, that's why, exactly. It focuses on 4 main pillars, yes? So the first is a self-empowering mindset and heart set. Number 2 is distinctive uniqueness. Number 3, yes.
Okay.
Number 3 is body and energy conscious presence. And number 4 is inspired and effective action. So if you allow me, I would like to go into each of those pillars and explain a little bit more about what they are about. Yes?
All right.
So let's start with self-empowering mindset and heart set, and then we'll go to distinctive uniqueness. So we talk so much about, for example, about women's empowerment, but the truth is no one can empower you but yourself. Yeah, we can give women equal rights. We can give them access to resources, access to funds and opportunities. And that's all really important, but we cannot empower them. In reality, they are already powerful. And the accent is on full because we all have this unlimited power inside of us. We just often forget about it. So we need to learn to connect with it and in that way, self-empower. There are many ways to do that. There are exercises, techniques, and it's also about getting rid of limiting roadblocks, such as limiting beliefs and limiting emotions, releasing them, and also moving through fear oftentimes. But it's really not only about mindset. It's also about our heart set, because we perceive everything at least twice, usually first through our heart and then through our mind. And we don't only have a cranial brain in our heads, we also have a heart brain. So we need to relearn to focus on the intelligence of our hearts, the intelligence that's in our intuition, leading from the heart and all of that. So we want to use our heart's emotional intelligence, and the heart is also where we get our courage from. It's important to realize that. So a self-empowering mindset and heart set, in a nutshell, is the ability to consciously create your own reality rather than just facing the reality you see around you. And then, so that much about pillar number 1. So let me move on to distinctive uniqueness. So we already talked about that a little bit earlier. And it's key for women to be fully aware of what distinguishes them for a leadership position, really for everybody, but women sometimes have a little bit of a harder time with it. They don't always value their, what they bring to the table so much.
Yeah.
So, and why is that important? Well, because leaders don't blend in. Leaders stand out. But women traditionally have a harder time.
Hold on, please. Sorry, I did not get that. Leaders what? The what?
Leaders do not blend in. Leaders stand out. Yes. I hope you can hear me well. Yes.
Yeah, it's perfect. Leaders.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, and as I said, women traditionally have a harder time to stand out than men. And especially in organizations that were created by men for men, right, in the past. So how can they then become more visible, and how can they stand out as candidates for leadership? How can they make their voices heard in a way that's effective for their careers? Yes. And how can they use their unique qualities to become more influential and get into those leadership positions so that they can have the impact and create the change they want to see in the world? And that's where distinctive uniqueness comes in.
Wow.
Yes. So if you allow me, I'm just going to go briefly also into pillar number 3. Okay. Body and energy conscious presence. And that is about, a compelling business presence.
Okay.
So you may have heard that 55% of how we are perceived by other people is about our body language. But it's not only about our gestures and posture, it's also about our energy. So we often hear that we have 7 seconds to make a first impression, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard that? Yeah. But the reality, the reality is our brains figure out in only 0.07 seconds whether it is safe to trust someone. That's much less than 7 seconds. And that's our survival mechanism. So in reality, we only have 0.07 seconds, and that's about our energy. And this energy is also transmitted over the phone. Yes, so when we talk on the phone, it's also transmitted because we constantly communicate energetically. And science says all we are is energy, but we hardly ever speak about energy in business. Yeah, so when I talk about and teach my clients to use their energy, they have seen amazing results. For example, when they prepare not only mentally for meetings and negotiations, but also energetically and physically. It's tremendous. It can give you a tremendous edge if you do that. Yes. So my last pillar of the PLT framework is inspired and effective action. When the 3 first pillars that I just described are combined with a person's competencies, in this case, you were asking about women, right? So women's competencies, but this is also valid for anybody really. Yeah. So when they do that, this can lead to more inspired and effective action, and therefore also to increased success. And that's why this is the 4th pillar of my powerful leadership transformation.
Wow. Can I do that? It's mind-blowing. 2 things you said, the intelligence from the heart, which I actually captured that, we're going to talk about it in a moment, and I just got a go-home phrase with me today: leaders do not blend in, they stand out. That is amazing. I just got that, and that's my go-to phrase for the season. All right, without taking much of your time, the next question, which I actually had drafted, was the OLDN held its global OLDN leadership masterclass recently, and the focus was on leading transformation. What is your understanding of transformation leadership, and of what significance is it to modern leadership or society?
Yes, thank you. In fact, I just wrote an article on transformational leadership, which will appear in a magazine founded by a business friend, and I'd be happy to share it with you once it's published. And that should be happening in the next few weeks. But for now, let's summarize it a little bit here. So transformational leadership can mean many, many things. It's about the transformation of people, the positive transformation of people, hopefully, yes, but also the transformation of processes and even entire organizations or societies and nations. It's a very broad term. So in my work, transformational leadership and transformational leadership coaching emphasizes on inspiring others to bring their best selves for the joint success of their teams and organizations. Yes. Transformational leaders know how to leverage the complementary talents and skills of diverse teams, and they will welcome and appreciate the gift of diversity. So transformational leaders, to me, are also inclusive leaders.
Okay.
And positively transformational leaders set the foundation for effective co-creation. And as a result, they can also achieve increased creativity and innovation. That's the benefit, yes, and more effectiveness as well. And transformational leaders, it's also important to realize that they constantly transform themselves, and they inspire by example even more than by words. And they welcome different perspectives because they know that they can only transform themselves with an open mind. Through their leadership, and their leadership style, they support an organizational culture where all are encouraged to contribute, and where they are encouraged to contribute not just ideas that are asked from them, but also their unique brilliance and genius, and where all can thrive. And that to me is transformational leadership.
Okay, that is great. I'm so glad actually in your explanation you had to mention diversity, which actually leads me to the next questions. I'm sorry I'm pumping you with a lot of questions, just we are eager and thirsty. So taking into consideration the diversity which you mentioned, I'm gonna ask you this. Diversity and inclusion is one defining value of the OLDN. How important is diversity and inclusion in an organization and the broader society?
Well, we already have diversity in the world. We already have diversity in society, and we also have it in many organizations, although not always to the extent we'd like to have it, right?
True.
So AI in recruiting and artificial intelligence in recruiting and hiring has promised to change this, but it hasn't kept its promise because the underlying societal structures would need to change as well, and they would have to change first. For example, the education system, or some socioeconomic structures.
Okay.
Plus, AI is also biased because it's biased through the biases of the people who program it, right? So it takes a while until it gets there. But that's actually too big a topic for this interview. I just wanted to briefly mention this. So what I do want to say, though, is that once we have a certain level of diversity in an organization or in a community, what's of course key is that all diverse components are seen and heard, that they are not only present, but they are seen and heard. And these components are not just external ones, like, for example, different races, skin color, ethnicities, religions, nationalities, and all these different categories that we put people into. What also needs to be considered are different perspectives, points of view, yes, ideas. So in societies like the US, which was one that I have gotten to know more deeply in the last few years because I've lived there, we often see that people from a specific category, as we, like, for example, a race, right, are expected to have a specific political opinion. And that's not only non-inclusive, but it's dangerous, I believe. So I also call these categories that we tend to put people into, I also call these categories boxes. And I believe that we need to unbox people, pull them out of their boxes and their categories and into their humanness. And that's also about humanizing. And inclusion should be natural human behavior, but unfortunately, many humans need oftentimes a scapegoat for their own failures, yes? So they look for someone to blame, and the easiest way to find someone to blame is to look for someone who's different.
Yeah, it's true, very true.
Yeah, so some people also think that their own position is somehow at risk when people different to them are included in leadership. So some leaders believe that, right? Which is really not true. And in history, we have seen again and again, we have seen so many examples of how easy it is to get entire groups to blame other groups. And again, this is tremendously dangerous, and it can lead to wars and to civil wars and other forms of violence. It's so easy to instigate people through difference. And it makes no sense, really.
Okay, great. I think that was a
but
bit.
if I,
okay, I got you now.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say that this is exactly why it's, if you allow me for a moment, this is exactly why I believe that it's so important that we develop a self-empowering mindset and heart set, because when people are self-empowered and know about their distinctive uniqueness, when they recognize their own brilliance and genius, they will also see it and value it and respect it in others. And they will not have any need to feel threatened by others who are different. Yes. So, because they will now see the deeper meaning behind all humans being different. They will figure out their own piece in the bigger puzzle of diversity, and they will now also be more self-responsible as they realize that they create their own reality and others do that as well. Thank you for allowing me to add that.
It's very fine. I'm actually honored. So that is actually, if I look at it, it's some sort of dealing with insecurities and how people get unboxed and stuff like that. I was actually writing a lot. I don't know if you can see this.
That's great. Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Actually,
you're absolutely right with what you just said. Yes.
Yeah. So without taking much of your time, the next question is, which is the fifth question. I'm about to let you go. Sorry for keeping you this long.
No, let's go on. I have time for you today. Thank you.
Oh, amazing.
For making the time as well.
I'm very humbled. So one of your models, which is actually conversational intelligence, speaks about co-creation. Can you elaborate more on that, like for the sake of the viewers,
Yes, so conversational intelligence, or CIQ, is a modality that was created by Judith Glaser from Creating We, that's the company. And the modality gives leaders the tools to navigate more successfully through team conversations and all sorts of negotiations as well. And it also has wonderful tools for anyone who participates in meetings and negotiations. Its centerpiece is about creating organizational cultures built on trust, which is the fundamental basis for co-creation. Yes, co-creation goes beyond collaboration. It's about making teams more effective, creative, and innovative, because they know that these leaders who practice co-creation know that we are better together. And they build on each team member's complementary strengths and skills. And as the name says, it's also about communication. Yes, so the name conversational intelligence is of course also about communication. It's about using the right words in specific situations. It's also about practicing we-centered leadership rather than I-centered leadership. So it's about we. And it's based on the findings of the neuroscience of trust and has a number of very powerful coaching tools.
Wow, that's amazing. Actually, usually I often tell people it's not what you say that matters, it's how you say it. So that actually is more enlightening. Based on your background and the bio, the things you wrote about it, you mentioned some few things about Africa. Oh, just so you know, I'm from Africa, Cameroon.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yes, from Cameroon. I've been to Cameroon. Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so actually you're passionate about Africa. Tell us about your work, the work you do in Africa, and some of the opportunities available for women in Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my work in Africa started about 3 years ago. Before, I had always been focusing more on other locations because I had lived in Latin America for a long time, for about 8 years in Brazil and Argentina, and then also in the US, in California, and now in New York. And I'm originally from Germany, in Europe, and had lived and worked in Spain and Portugal. But a little more than 3 years ago, I was invited to prepare a group of young women in Ghana for job interviews and a neighboring country, right? So and this was followed by me speaking at a conference in South Africa, in Johannesburg. And the following year, I co-hosted and spoke at a conference for startups and entrepreneurs and students in Cameroon, in Yaoundé.
Oh,
and yes, so I spent about almost 2 weeks there. And since then, you know, I've spent a total of 9 months of the last 3 years in several African countries, speaking at events, universities, like also the University of Johannesburg, and also training and coaching, mostly women and youth. And so the countries I've been to include Ghana, as I said, Cameroon, South Africa, Uganda, and Rwanda. And in the past, I'd also been to Morocco, but that was a long time ago. So, in Rwanda, for example, I trained a group of young people with an environmental project, and I had met the leader, who's a woman of that group, back in Ghana a few years ago at another event I was invited to. So this spring, I was actually also supposed to travel back to Rwanda to speak at a big event at the convention center, and then also to travel to Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa to speak at several events. And I was also in negotiations to train women at a Nigerian organization. But as you know, this was not possible this year, right? So this is why I started also working online with several groups instead. And more recently, as you read in my bio, I was appointed Deputy Director for Education and Head of Leadership Institute at IRO, so African Intellectual Resource Organization. And I'm also a member of the advisory board of the Voice of the Girl, Child, and Vulnerable People Foundation, which is based in Nigeria. And yeah, so and as a little side comment, you know, I used to actually, because you said you're from Cameroon, so I used to have a Cameroonian boyfriend in the past, but that was a while ago. And have a lot of course, African friends from all over Africa, both in New York and in the US and in the countries themselves. And I love, and one of the reasons for that is because I love African dance and fashion. Yeah, so I also took some West African dance classes in the past. Not all the West African dances, because there's so many. It's such a rich culture, right? And more recently, I've also taken Afrobeat classes, which are a great way for me to stay fit. I'm not so great at Afrobeat, but I love it and I love the music. And my big passion is Congolese dance, contemporary Congolese dance and music. And I've been taking classes with my dear friend Nkumo Katalai in New York City. So yeah, so I've always loved dance, you know, though I didn't really grow up with it. But I got to enjoy other dance styles that are also related, of course, to African culture and have their roots in African culture. For example, when I lived in Latin America, like Brazil, or all the Caribbean dances also that I sometimes practice. One of my favorite friends is Haitian. So, you know, all the Latin American and Caribbean dances, of course, have their roots from the African culture. Right.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm actually very curious. I read your bio again, and I listened to one of your videos on YouTube. You said you speak over 5 languages. How is
yes,
that?
so,
and what are the languages you speak? Like you speak them very fluently?
So I speak German is my native language, and just like many Africans who speak so many languages, you know, I always admire you for speaking all those different languages, different sounding languages, and they're so beautiful. And one day I hope to learn one as well when I have more time. But so yes, my native language is German, and then I studied, of course, Latin at school, and that doesn't count. But then I studied English and French as well. And then at 26, I started studying Spanish because I moved to Spain, and there I also learned Portuguese because I did a lot of work in Portugal. And later on, my Portuguese, of course, changed to Brazilian Portuguese, which is quite different.
Oh,
and because of the proximity here in Bavaria, where I'm spending some time right now with my family before going back to New York City, I'm so close, we're so close to Italy. And so I speak a little bit of Italian, but not really that much.
that's
I just
amazing.
understand it a little bit, yes.
That's amazing. I can only count in a couple of languages and I have passion for them, but I'm not too fluent like Arabic. I am quite conversant. I can find my way around it because
Wow.
I've been in Egypt for a while. I stayed in Egypt for a visit. Their language is quite easy to pick, and I have passion for it. I like the way they pronounce their words. I can count in a few languages, Japanese, in Spanish, in of course French, but I don't speak French. Je parle un peu de français, mais je ne parle pas bien français parce que je suis une anglophone.
Oui, mais je pense que ton français est très très bon. Mon français est un peu oublié aussi parce que je ne le parle pas trop. Mais bon, c'était juste au Cameroun où j'étais l'opportunité de le parler un peu encore une fois. But my other languages are much more fluent still, like, you know, Spanish, Portuguese, and English, and of course the German because it's my native language. I have to practice a little bit more in French again. But I admire you for speaking Arabic because that's also actually one of the languages I was very drawn to when I was younger, but then, you know, life takes its course. And
Yeah,
yeah, but that's amazing. Congratulations.
it's okay. Thank you. I'm loving the Arab nations a lot. I think I have to get acquainted with their languages because I've been to over just few countries, like I think 7 or so, and they're all Arab nations. I don't know why. I just have this passion for Arab nations. And
that's great.
yeah, I never fancy some countries. My mom was like, "Why do you travel only to Arab countries?" I'm like, "Because there's a lot of oil and that's a lot of money, and that's what I'm all about."
Sure, and you know that's you're right. You know, I've only been to Qatar. I led a women's leadership training in Qatar a couple of years ago, so that was my only experience. It was just right after coming back from Cameroon, actually, and it was an amazing experience as well. Very enriching. I learned a lot. Every time I travel and I teach and I speak to people, of course, I learn just as much or much more even than I teach, right? So it's very, very enriching, as you just said, to travel and learn about other cultures and open our minds in that way. Wow. It's very, very important.
It's very important. Before we leave, I'd like to know how to pronounce your name and how would you prefer me calling you? Because I'm actually from Africa and I have this African mindset. You can't call senior by their name just like that. And I've been privileged to work with some few Europeans, and if I put a Miss in front of their name, they are not quite comfortable. If I put a Mrs. in front, they're not quite comfortable. If I put a Madam in front, they are not quite comfortable. So I'm like, okay, how would you want me to call you? So they have different slangs. With you, how would you prefer I call you?
So first of all, you know, I'm used to many different ways. I'm even used to many different ways of pronouncing my name because I've lived in different places, right? So I'm not easily offended. I don't have any specific title. So, you know, we use a lot, what we use a lot in the US is MS, so Ms, because it's neutral. So it doesn't matter if you're married or not, which I think it doesn't really matter, right? It's about who you are. And so that's totally fine, but you can also just call me Regina. We're so used to it, you know, it's the more informal way. And if you prefer Madam, that's fine, but you don't have to. We are, you know, we are at the same level. So I called you Ms. Blessing, and I'd be happy to call you Blessing, if that's okay with you. So we can just stick with the Regina and the Blessing, if that's okay with you. And
you can call me Blessing, but I think maybe Madam should be better. So it's more or less like a respect thing. You know, respect is a rude thing. I don't mess with that. So maybe I'll just put Madam Reginald, sorry, in front of it. You have books you have written. How can the viewers access your books?
Yes, my book is called Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, and it gives you tools to prepare physically, energetically, and mentally for challenging situations in business and for speaking. So for speaking in public, for to also engage your audience more successfully and to increase your perceived presence. It's on Amazon as Kindle and as a paperback as well. And then my website, which you certainly need to know, is transformyourperformance.com. You already said that at the beginning.
Yeah, I think I should have that. I actually had that on my screen. I'm not sure,
Yes.
just a moment. I think I should have that here.
Yes, I can also send you the link to my book on Amazon.
Oh, okay, that's amazing.
And it's also, yeah, and it's also on my website. There's a book page. But yeah, so that you can use any of these tools. And then my LinkedIn is Regina Huber, like my name, right?
Okay. Oh, okay, I get the pronunciation Huber. Okay, you don't want to know how I.
Yeah, it's Regina Huber, but it doesn't. Don't feel bad about it. Nobody knows. Everybody, you know, it's fine. If it's in the recording like that, don't worry. It's fine. People will, you know. Okay.
Great.
It's really Huber because it's German, but nobody gets how it's written if I say Huber. So I say, you know, I usually say Regina Huber because then it's a bit easier for people to spell it.
Okay, all right, that's great. So I'm just going to share your website now. I think I have it on screen. Okay, no, not this one. Sorry. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
No, this is your write-up. Sorry. And here we go. Okay, so here is her website, and we can reach you on. I think I'm going to attach the link on the video during the editing, so it's easy for others to reach you too.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you so much. So LinkedIn and my website are the most important ones. I do have a Transform Your Performance Facebook page, but quite frankly, it's not as active as LinkedIn. So I prefer to connect on LinkedIn with people.
Okay.
Or both. Or both.
That's great. Yes. So, Madam Regina, thank you very much for joining us today. Indeed, I am thrilled and I am humbled to have you on this platform. And for everyone viewing us on any of the social media platform, if you're watching us on YouTube, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification button. So whenever we upload a video, you're the very first to see our videos. And if you're watching us on Facebook, please make sure you follow us on Facebook and share the page as well. And you can also visit our website at www.centralold.com. The links will be below, and to see more of Regina's website, the link is going to be attached below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Madam Regina, for joining us today, and we hope to have you some other time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm very grateful to be with you today and everybody who is watching.
I am humbled. Thank you once again for viewing, and stay tuned for the next edition.